Hello everyone. Let's take a look at a few of your classmates' works. First, this piece by Sargent for this painting. There's a bit of an issue with the proportions. I mentioned in class before, a good way to check your proportions is to look at your painting in a mirror. That means viewing its mirrored reflection. Sometimes when you keep staring at your painting, you get used to it and can't see the problem anymore. Now let me flip it for you. When you look at it in reverse like this, don't you feel the face looks a bit crooked, right? This face, the mouth corner is tilted, and even the eyes of siwei a bit uneven. That's actually quite a big issue. And then, let's keep looking. You'll see the difference if you compare. At first glance, it might look fine, but once you flip it, notice it's slightly crooked, right? Even the chin area is tilted, humdum. The mouth corners and so on, they look a little off. Another issue is the light and shadow contrast on the skin is not very clear. For instance, in the original figure, the left side of the face is much brighter, and the right side is in shadow, a bit darker, bringing your painting. This difference isn't very noticeable. The nose shadow, the eye sockets, the eyes are too bright, and the lips are a bit too red. When painting portraits like this, keep in mind, brush strokes in the shadow area should be softer, while in the light areas, they can be slightly sharper. The reflected light here also seems a bit too strong. Now let's look at other parts. For example, the dog and the hand. Those areas need more work and definition. If you look at Sargent's original painting, his brushwork here is very loose and expressive. He didn't overdefine these strokes, so it feels softer and more subtle. You can tell it's a dog, but the brush strokes aren't heavy or busy, but not strong. I don't mean the color is weak, but rather that the brush strokes are fewer, less fragmented. When you work on the main area, you can use more strokes, prolonged edges, reduce them, keep it simpler. Don't make it overly complex there in your painting, however. The dog seems to have more detail than necessary, which makes the focus a bit confusing. It feels like the main and secondary parts are mixed up. Now, let's take a look at our demo painting. You notice, you can clearly see the turning of several planes, right? This is the side plane, and this one here is the front plane. Let me point it out with my brush. I'll mark it with the brush. This part is the side plane. This part is the front plane. And here is the right side plane. You should separate these planes clearly. This one's a bit rare, this one lighter, and this one darker. First distinguish these areas properly. Then look at the nose shadows. They're different on each side. The left side should be greener, the right side darker. That's because of the main light source. Also, for the eyes, don't make them too dark or too black. They look a bit too deep right now. Same with the lips. They appear a bit too red. Overall, the tone likes unity. It feels slightly messy. But first, fix the proportions and pay attention to what I mentioned earlier. That will really help elevate your painting. Alright, let's take a look at the next one. This student painted a copy of Rembrandt. The overall shape looks okay. The figures outlined in form are decent. But, again, come back to what we mentioned earlier. The contrast between light and dark isn't very clear. We can turn it to black and white. Let's lower the saturation. You notice that the bright tones on the clothes in the dark areas aren't dark enough. That's why the overall image looks weak. For example, the eyes. The eye sockets are quite deep, and the eyeballs should sit inside the sockets. They shouldn't be that bright. The eyes shouldn't look that shiny. You've painted them too bright. When painting, make sure to notice. For example, let me circle this area. This is an eye socket. Here's another eye socket. We start with the eye sockets. Fill them in first, using a darker tone, almost like painting a silhouette. Then, under the nose, you have that triangular shadow and the shape of the mouth. Like this, what you have, these large forms. Then you can go back and find the details. You can compare it with the demonstration we just did. In the demo, let me also turn it to black and white. Let's desaturate that one too. Then you'll notice there are clear shadows in the eye sockets. See the sock? The whites of the eyes inside it don't appear completely white. Maybe on this side it's a bit lighter, but on the other side the white is hidden entirely. The shadow under the nose is also quite strong, and so is the one under the lips, and on the chin. Then the close and high. The light and dark values on the hot. Don't differ that much. Here looks too bright, right? It feels a bit too prominent. We actually want to emphasize the face, so the close and hot can be painted darker. It feels like you're painting every little detail separately, but you're not looking at it as a whole. You haven't connected the parts together. That makes the painting look a bit fragmented, not unified, not cohesion. When we paint, especially portraits, in profile views, some areas should be broken up. For example, the corner of the eye should connect with the dark shadow of the hair. That breaks the line. Same with the mouth corner. Connect it downward, that way, along a single line. There will be several breaks. This makes the painting look more harmonious. Also, the shadows in the hair area are too bright, but your structure is fine. There's no big problem there. The main issue is in the drawing, the value structure. As for the color, since your painting is small, it's hard to express those brush textures. But first, we should handle the main relationships properly. That will make the work feel more unified overall. The student's plaster drawing. When he painted this plaster cast, I think most of his effort is still focused on the stage of building the structure. There are probably some problems with his proportions. The main structural issue. Take a look at this eye. I feel that he painted it a bit too large and too deep. And here, the nose and the sides of the nostrils show a kind of asymmetry. Also on the face, the cheek area here is too dark. And here, there should also be a better sense of overall unity. The face looks a little too round. If you now try to make it symmetrical, you notice the face is tilted. In this corner of the eye, is stretched way too far. The eye is drawn too big and too long. You see, the two sides of the face look a bit uneven. However, the overall modeling is still there. By overall modeling, I mean he already has the details in place, but the overall relationship isn't handled well. He lacks cohesion. Let's pay attention to what overall unity means. When we draw a sketch like this, I often emphasize this one idea: you must always think about the whole. For example, if the light comes from this side, from this direction, you can notice that this entire area is actually covered in shadow. This part should be generally darker. Meanwhile, this left side will appear brighter, but even within that, some lighter areas here shouldn't be brighter than this main highlight. They shouldn't appear lighter than this zone, but now it feels like those parts in a dark area are almost as bright as the nose area. They should only be faintly visible in the shadows. Look at our demo drawing. You notice that the whole area here is unified under one tone. In the demo, you can clearly see this whole region stays in shadow. It doesn't have overly bright spots standing out. Right. You see, these overly bright details make the plaster cast look like the lighting is inconsistent. You can feel the texture seems off. It lacks a clean white plaster feeling. It looks too dark. Even these lighter areas on the left, they still appear too dark. You could say, this student actually has some solid foundational skills in structure, but in terms of overall control and handling of structural details, there's still room for improvement. Try using the method we just talked about. Flip the drawing horizontally and look at it again. You notice there are still some imbalances that need adjustment. However, for this drawing, I can tell he put in a lot of effort, and overall the effect is quite good. It just lacks some overall tonal variation. Alright, that's it for today's critique. If anyone has questions, you can continue discussing them in the group chat.